strong component on the human side of social justice, helping others, standing up for what's right, helping the underdog, and giving chances, opportunities to those who did not have the chances of the opportunity. So there's this human side of things. But then there's this entire panoply of creative, artistic, technological components and dots that are connected together. So my question for you is, how, which is perhaps a question that I often ask because I'm biased, how did you connect those dots?
Oh, I don't know still, really. I try, you know. I mean, a good example is the horticulture thing. So, you know, I'm thinking, how do I ever use that? Because clearly not, the temperament personality doesn't suit the farmer, you know. And in fact, you have to, I learned quite quickly, you have to have a lot of money or own land to be a farmer. So the only job when you graduate is to work for somebody else on very low wages, even if you got a degree. So you know, I did take the advice of my lecturers and the other students. So I applied for drama school. In fact, my first job after leaving my degree in horticulture, before I even got into drama school, was acting, which was a bit bizarre because I was so shy. And I think it's maybe those primary school experiences of being able to shut everything else off and then have as a character that enabled me to act. So I was given the role of Percy in like a dinner theatre improv restaurant, which I've since heard, and I think this is quite key to how I approach things. I've since heard that's really difficult, you know, because with no training, you're going into making up lines for a paying audience, and it's improv. I've met other actors who just hate improvisation, and I did it really well, and I know that because the other cast said you're fantastic, and the audiences loved it, and in fact, one of the cast members said he was intimidated by me because he thought I was really that character. And then as soon as I went into that character, I was that character. And then when I finished, I was just me, and it threw him all the time. So I think part of me is I don't see the can't. So I think one of the problems with too much education is we end up learning too much to the point that we feel we need to know more, and then we just can't start. And so if someone tells you that's really difficult, then, and you've got enough knowledge, you understand why it's difficult, then you won't do it. If you're a complete amateur, which I was, but then I was getting paid, or beginner, so I wouldn't say amateur in the sense I was being paid well and people enjoyed it and I kept being paid, you know. So yeah, it's because I didn't realize that you couldn't do it. So I just do it, you know, and I didn't realize it was meant to be difficult. And I found it easy because no one had said it's difficult, if that makes sense. And so I think that psyche, and there's been moments, don't get me wrong, I've been in situations in education when people tell you something's really, really difficult, and I go, oh, it must be really, really difficult. And hence it stifles your ability to do it, because that does affect your mindset. So yeah, I mean, yeah, so drama, and then the other students said, you're really funny. I actually want to be a writer because that's ironic. Yeah. I wanted to be a writer at the time because that meant I didn't have to deal with people. So I kept falling into these different roles. So I spent most of my drama postgrad diploma trying to do writing. But as I was the only student who had ever acted professionally before, so all of the rest of them are doing English lit degrees, like they come from English and usually middle-class backgrounds upwards, and so they knew the difference between a latte and a cappuccino, and I didn't. I just thought it was coffee, you know, and they'd all read Chaucer, and they're quoting from Chaucer, and that, to me, my attire in the horticulture degree was wearing gumboots. They call them Wellingtons in this country, and you know, jeans, and just we call them swannies, but you know, I had a woolen jumper. And then when I went to Auckland, which is our big city, and you're doing drama, it was everyone's dressed really fancy, and And again, we're talking about these sort of cliques of identity. People tend to adopt an identity that suits the job that they're doing. And it's everywhere you go, whatever profession I've seen it in. And so I didn't really feel like I fitted into that either. But they kept asking me to act in their shows, and so I never ended up finishing writing my piece. And there was a reworking of how people see the Bible, so the character of Jesus, but I wanted to see it from a different perspective. So it was interesting anyway. But when I graduated, I didn't want to be an actor. And one of those things I really enjoyed when I was at uni was set design and lighting. And John Hardman at the time was like the key set designer and lighting person for theatre. And I reached out to him because he was our guest tutor. And I really believe education should be based on people who come from industry, who've got some sort of experience, but also not just from industry. They know how to teach. They know how to inspire passion in you. And he inspired passion in me, right? So I remember we had our final end of year piece. It's a big play that we had to do, and I didn't act in it. And I did, no one else, all these other people my age wanted to be actors and famous and stuff, and I didn't. And so I probably the only person who wanted to do the set design and lighting. They'll go, great, you can do that, you know. So I did. Well, actually, I was co-designer with another woman who wanted to do it as well. So we built this together, and so we designed it together. And I got my uncle, who was a builder. Remember where I come from? Whole family of builders. So he came in to help build the set because I can't hammer a nail straight. And I loved it. Really did. And so I reached out to John and I said, look, can I just learn from you? You know, I've graduated, I'd like to be a set designer. Can I learn from you? And he goes, yeah. So he invited me to, like, no pay, but like a work experience type thing. And he invited me to shadow him on Hamlet for the Watershed Theatre in Auckland. So this big show, and Michael Hurst was the lead in this, and if you don't know who Michael was, at the time he was like our biggest theatre actor, and he was also a director, so he's directing the show as well, and the lead, as often happens, you know. And he was actually one of the leads in Hercules as well, Michael Hurst. So he was like Hercules, like second-hand man, you know, like his best friend. And so I went to this because so John said, like, okay, what I think is a good experience for you, Lance, is to design something from scratch and make it, and then see it in the play. So he gave me the backdrop. There was like some sort of regal sort of I'm trying to remember the play now. So there's a bit where in the Hamlet where you've got the throne room, right? So Hamlet goes to see his uncle. It's a strange story, isn't it? His uncle who's married his mother, and his uncle had killed his father and to marry his mother and get all the wealth. You know, you think about that sort of article, that sort of storyline is usually in the Sun or News of the World now, or News of the World doesn't exist, but yeah, actually that would be a good play. Just do the Sun's version of Hamlet. You know, that would be really interesting, rather than try and make it too historical. But yeah, so I had to do this backdrop behind the throne, and so we had to do research, and so we researched into the time periods and what did medieval sort of backdrops and stuff look like, and we had to get all that together, and then I had to draw up a design based on that, and then I had to make it. So we had to, that's another skill, sewing, right? So grammar school, we didn't learn to sew, because it's not a boys.
Should have added it to the introduction.
Yeah, I should have. I can knit as well. But that's another story, right? Yeah, sewing. So in secondary school, just normal regular secondary school, we all had to go to sewing lessons, boys and girls. But when I went to grammar school, no, that's not a thing you do. This is a boys' school. right? I don't understand this because, you know, why?
Right.
Why? You know, does it mean that I don't have clothes I need to mend? You know,
Right.
but
Yeah,
Would I be
needle.
forced to sewing? No,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah,
Right.
and cooking. We did cooking at secondary school, but when I went to grammar school, it wasn't an option for boys. Again, why?
Yeah.
Do boys not have to feed themselves? You know,
Right.
there's something
Right.
wrong about that. It
Yeah.
is appalling, isn't it? And I loved cooking. Actually, there's another story because I was a cook in a restaurant at one point.
So now you have another dot to connect in the future, which is the
Yes.
of God. But I love
With
the
the
fact,
cooking
what
part.
I really love about this is that it reminds me actually of a quote by Ray Bradbury, or attributed to him, which is jump off a cliff, build your wings on the way down. And what you said about not being afraid to do the shift, to connect the dots, to start something new, start afresh, is something that is actually critical to the growth process. And it gives you a lot of courage to try things that you've never thought you would before, because, hey, what's wrong with it? Let's try it. Let's go for it. Why not? And this is the why not. This why not jump off a cliff? Why not take the risk and build the wings on the way down? And I think this is a critical factor when it comes to really connecting disciplines, because all of a sudden you're not bound to one place. Because once you're bound to one place and you have 10 plus, 15 plus, 20 plus years of experience in that one specific thing, you have so much to lose if you switch. You have so much to lose if you switch. But if you're used to the idea of really merging a lot of different ideas and trying a lot of different things and finding connections in between things, like, for instance, sewing, lighting, acting, behind the scenes, on site, and all of these things. So there's a certain fluidity that comes with it, and that also stems from this courage of, okay, I'm in acting, but why not try also the lighting part? And when I'm lighting, yes, but why not try this as well? Where you're no longer, or as a polymath, you're no longer constricted to a certain frame and to a certain context. And this is where you're like free to roam. You can go wherever you want to. And it gives a certain freedom that is very powerful, but it's also very challenging, especially in a world that calls for specialization, or up until now had been calling for specialization, probably not so much in the coming decades or two.